Good afternoon. It's Monday, December 19th. I'm Amir O'Sullivan, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. The Israel Defense Forces this afternoon struck a Hamas post inside Gaza in response to gunshots that were fired earlier at IDF soldiers working along the security fence. The Hamas target was reportedly destroyed by the IDF tank fire. There were no injuries among the soldiers and no damage was caused. The IDF spokesperson unit issued a statement saying the army will continue to act decisively at all times in order to ensure the security of the state of Israel. An investigation into the incident has been launched. Israeli Arab lawmaker Bassel Ghatas of the Balad party of the Joint Arab List has been summoned for questioning by the police 433 Lahav fraud investigation unit on suspicion of smuggling mobile phones to Palestinian security prisoners incarcerated in Israel. Responding to the accusations, the Joint Arab List issued a statement accusing police of political persecution and attempting to delegitimize the activities of the party and damage its image. Ghatas accused the police of launching a witch hunt. According to local media reports, police believe they have compiled substantial evidence against the lawmaker, who is accused of undermining state security by smuggling at least 15 cell phones to the prisoners serving time in the Katziot prison in the Negev. One of the inmates is serving a 37-year sentence for murder. Reacting to what he called grave allegations, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned whoever harms state security should be severely punished and not permitted to serve in the Knesset. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman accused members of the Joint List of being traitors and spies and called to revoke Ghatas' citizenship and that of other Arab lawmakers suspected of committing offenses. Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan called for the allegations against Ghatas serious, adding if he was not a Knesset member, he would likely be detained because of the grave nature of the suspicions against him. Opposition leader Isaac Herzog said if the allegations are proven true, the authorities must mete out an uncompromising punishment, regardless of any connection to religion or ethnicity. Peretz leader Zahava Galon, however, urged restraint against giving Ghatas a political kangaroo court to remove Arabs from the Knesset and wait until the police investigation is over to make any moves against Ghatas. IDF forces seized a large weapons manufacturing facility overnight located underneath a home in the city of Hebron. The army described it as one of the largest weapons-producing facilities discovered in Judea and Samaria in the past year. The owner of the facility was arrested by security forces who seized hundreds of weapons parts, 15 weapons manufacturing machines, a homemade M16 assault rifle, as well as large amounts of ammunition. In similar raids this year conducted in the West Bank areas, IDF forces uncovered some 40 weapons-producing facilities and confiscated more than 420 weapons. It's been cleared for publication that Benny Steinmetz is the prominent Israeli business tycoon suspected of paying out bribes to the tune of tens of millions of dollars to senior public officials in Guinea, Africa, to protect his mining business interests. The Rishon LeZion Magistrates Court today sent Steinmetz to 2 weeks house arrest. The millionaire is temporarily banned from leaving the country and was asked to deposit his passport with authorities. Earlier, Steinmetz was taken in for questioning at the National Fraud Investigation Unit after police raided his home and office. He is also suspected of conducting a major money laundering operation involving other leading businessmen. The probe into the matter is part of a wide-scale corruption case led by the OECD involving Israeli businessmen abroad and is being conducted in cooperation with law enforcement officials in the US, Switzerland, Guinea, and Israel. Traffic came to a halt in Jerusalem this afternoon as thousands of farmers from across the country ascended the Capitol protesting the government's policy and treatment of farmers, which they say is running agriculture into the ground. Demonstrators gathered outside the Knesset, lashing out against the government's plans to allow the import of a variety of produce, including eggs, tomatoes, cucumbers, cheese, and meat, which they claim is going to kill the local agricultural industry. In the past 18 months, representatives of the Israeli Farmers Federation tried to negotiate a settlement with the finance and agricultural ministries on creating a 15-year plan for the sector. So far, the talks have led to nowhere, and the farmers decided to step up their protests, bringing to light the loss of profits, bureaucratic struggles, and superfluous taxes that they say has caused them to lose the joy of creation. Knesset member Amir Peretz today announced his intention to run as head of the Zionist Union Party in the upcoming primaries to be held next year. It's the 4th time he has vied for party leadership. Peretz, a former defense minister and former head of the Labor Party in 2005, will be challenging current party head Isaac Herzog, Knesset member Arel Margalit, and possibly Knesset member Sheli Yachimovich, who has also said she is considering running as head of the Histadrut. At a press conference today, Peretz described himself as a man of the left who believes in fighting for social justice, peace, and democracy. The Foreign Ministry has asked authorities in Belarus to turn down an extradition request from Azerbaijan, demanding they hand over an Israeli travel blogger arrested last week at Baku's request. Jerusalem says it is unable to sanction harming a citizen because of opinions expressed in a blog. There are also fears that the blogger's arrest could jeopardize relations with Azerbaijan. 40-year-old Alexander Lapshin of Haifa, who holds dual Israeli-Ukrainian citizenship, was arrested last week with his wife shortly after arriving in Minsk. He is wanted by the authorities in Baku for traveling a number of times to the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh without coordinating his entry with them. Lapshin, who publishes Russian-language blogs, has criticized Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev, and his arrest occurred as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was winding up a world-renowned trip to Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan. In Baku, Netanyahu signed security deals to the tune of $5 billion. In regional news, terrorists killed 7 Jordanian police officers, a Canadian tourist, and 3 Jordanian civilians in an attack in the southern Jordanian tourist city of Karak. Forces killed 4 of the terrorists and arrested others. IBA's Margaret Dutkevich reports.
Jordanian police officers, a Canadian tourist, and Jordanian civilians were killed, and 34 people, including foreign tourists, were injured in the series of attacks on the populous tourist venue Karak that ended late last night. Security forces killed 4 terrorists and arrested others after flushing them out of the ancient Crusader-era castle where tourists were trapped inside. The attacks began yesterday afternoon when terrorists armed with automatic weapons, large quantities of explosives and suicide belts opened fire on a number of police patrols and a police station inside the Crusader castle, where they took hostages, including tourists visiting the site. After a 5-hour standoff with police, 4 terrorists were killed in a shootout. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack. The Canadian tourist was identified as Linda Vacha, a 62-year-old retired teacher who was visiting her son who works in the Middle East. When the series of attacks began yesterday, mosques' loudspeakers called on residents to flee the area. This created panic as businesses shut down and people fled to the countryside. Jordanian police later raided a rented apartment east of the city they believe was used by the gunmen, possibly members of a sleeper cell. Dozens of automatic weapons, explosives and suicide belts were seized by police. Jordanian nationals as well as non-Jordanian nationals were members of the terror cell, police said. Jordan has been long considered an oasis of stability and security amidst the violence plaguing the Middle East. But the image of stability is being eroded. Yesterday's attack marked the 4th waged against Jordanian police and security forces this year. The US, Canada, Kuwait, Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates swiftly condemned Sunday's attack, sending their condolences to the Hashemite kingdom. Margaret Dutkevich, IBA News.
The evacuation of thousands of Syrian civilians trapped inside the former rebel-held areas of eastern Aleppo resumed late last night as the UN Security Council was set to discuss sending monitors to oversee the transportation of civilians out of the war-torn area. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said 50 buses were prepared to take some 3,000 civilians out of Aleppo today. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council is said to have agreed to a compromise that will allow UN monitors to oversee the evacuation. This after Russia Sunday rejected a French plan calling it a disaster and instead formulated a proposal of its own.
It's left to the Secretary General to mobilize as many UN personnel as he can. I believe his plan, because this is an urgent, real-time, immediate issue, is to repurpose people who are in Aleppo already. The resolution also calls for those personnel to be supplemented by whatever staff is necessary. Look, if this were to actually work, which nothing in Syria, really has for the civilians of Syria, so we all have to take this with a grain of salt, you would see the rapid procession of people who want to leave out with monitors on the buses, monitors at the checkpoints as they cross into, if they're crossing into western Aleppo, or if they're crossing over to Idlib. And that is something that could be done with a combination of ICRC, Syrian Arab Red Crescent, and UN personnel on the ground, at least to make things much better than it is now.
Here at home, dozens gathered to show their support for the Syrian people. Last night, residents from all walks of life attended the organized demonstrations outside the Russian and U.S. embassies in Tel Aviv, waving signs and calling on political leaders and the UN to do more to end the bloodshed. Demonstrators also formed a human chain between the two embassies and lashed out against the role of Russian President Vladimir Putin and his government in the ongoing killings, particularly in the situation in Aleppo.
We're here tonight as Jews, as Israelis, as Arabs and Muslims and Americans. I'm an American Jewish Israeli. We're against the war in Syria. We think it's been going on for far too long. It's on our borders. It's just hundreds of kilometers away. And we want it to stop, and we want to apply pressure to the governments that can do something about it, including ours.
I have been frustrated for such a long time, trying to wonder what I can do. And I know that even being here right now, this is not enough. But this is the most minimal thing that I can do is come here and show solidarity with lots of different people who are here today to try to end the genocide that's going on right now in Syria.
With tens of thousands of pilgrims expected to visit the Holy Land over the Christmas period, Israel's Tourism Ministry and Jerusalem Municipality are making holiday preparations. The Tourism Ministry estimates that approximately 120,000 tourists will visit Israel in December, half of whom are Christian. On Tuesday, tomorrow, the Jerusalem Municipality is continuing its annual tradition of distributing complimentary Christmas trees to Jerusalem's residents who celebrate the holiday. 150 trees will be distributed at the Jaffa Gate Plaza. The municipality is also hanging festive lights and flags in areas of the city where the holiday is observed, including the Old City's Christian Quarter, Beit Chania, and main thoroughfares for pilgrims such as the Mar Elias Road to Bethlehem. In honor of 30 years of Spanish-Israeli cultural ties, the Israel Museum has opened an exhibit of Francis Goya's work called Daydreams and Nightmares. The exhibition includes large oil paintings loaned by Madrid's Prado Museum and juxtaposes his fine art of the aristocracy with the struggles of the lower classes. He is known by these etchings portraying violence, absurdity, and horrors of war and revolutions, as well as the hedonism of the royal class in the 18th century Spain.
I think the possibility to bring such a massive amount of works, because 10 works by Goya is no small thing. It's really important to point out that it's no regular loan. And to add it to our own holdings in works of Goya on paper has been a tremendous achievement for the museum.
Francisco Goya worked as a royal painter, but he didn't refrain from illustrating the changes taking place in Spain in the name of religion, inquisition, and revolutions.
In the name of Emperor Napoleon, we hereby proclaim the Spanish Inquisition abolished. All of his prisoners will be freed.
Goya did portraits of kings and princes, as well as the lower classes.
Our exhibition is actually called Daydreams and Nightmares, because on the one hand, Goya served the royal court, and he depicted a life which was all about playfulness and lightness and daytime, but then also because of the times. Goya was painting after the French Revolution in a time when the revolutionary spirit was moving across Europe, and so his work also depicts the kind of gathering storm of something that's coming that really is uncertain, something that's going to change the world.
Some 100 pieces of Goya's work have made their way to the walls of this exhibit.
He sees himself as kind of a journalist, and especially since the medium of black and white reminds us of the days before photographs were colored, or even before there were photographs in newspapers. So in a way, he's proclaiming, I have seen that, means that, well, maybe he didn't see it from the window of his bedroom, but he has seen the enormity of and the horrors of the war, and he wants to put them in, not writing, but in etching.
The etchings lead to a large room of his colorful works. These were taken from the Prado Art Museum of Madrid And for the first time, oil on canvas works by Goya are on display in Israel.
For the very first time, the Prado agreed to send a really stunning group of 10 very important master paintings from its collection that relate to the works on paper in our own holdings.
The exhibit shows Goya as one of the first European artists of the Enlightenment age who witnessed revolutions and didn't shy away from using it in his art. Ariel Sullivan for IBA News. During the week of Hanukkah, entry for children is free, and the exhibition will run until Passover. Well, the entertainment community is today mourning the loss of renowned actress Zsa Gabor, who passed away last night at the age of 99 from a heart attack in her Los Angeles home. The middle and most famous of the three Gabor sisters, Zsa made a career from her diamond-studded glamour and 9 marriages with a string of wealthy husbands. Born in Budapest to Jewish parents, Gabor rose to fame in the 1940s, climbing from beauty queen to millionaire's wife, to becoming a known television and film actress, making a fortune of basically just living it up. While many thought her personality outshone her acting skills, her bubbly demeanor and looks helped her quickly become a fixture on Hollywood's social circuit throughout the past 6 decades. Stock talk now, and shares were mixed on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, while the shekel lost in value against major foreign currencies. Here are the late afternoon numbers. Turning to the weather, and the forecast is calling for slightly colder temperatures and partly cloudy skies. Here are the expected highs and lows at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. That's our broadcast for today. Please join us again tomorrow when Laura Cornfield will be here to bring you the latest news from Israel. I'm Ariel Sullivan, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.